What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. This is Kevin Dubois. This is bringing in the new year, 2020. We didn't hardly do any podcasts last year, so we apologize to that. And me and Todd have... we're going to make a big push to do a lot more of them, especially some really cool ones with going back and following up with people that we've interviewed in the past. I think several people that I know personally have really grown their businesses a lot, and I think it's a really cool thing to see how that's come along since the last time we talked to them. But today we've got Alejandro and Pablo Moreno. I have known Alejandro for a very long time through Formula SA. He was on the team with me in 2005 and 2006 at UT Arlington. And since then, he has. Well, I'll let him fill in a story, but he's kind of come a long ways, and similar kind of path that I have, but we'll kind of hear how that goes. But before we get started, I wanted to say one really cool thing that not too many people know. Lady Gaga wrote a song devoted to Alejandro. That is this Alejandro. And every time I hear the song on the radio, I have to call him and tell him, your song is on. And he's like, dude, I know. So that's the fun fact for the day, that this Alejandro is the person Lady Gaga was talking about in her song, Alejandro.
So, I look back at my times with Lady Gaga fondly.
So Alejandro, Pablo, how are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Doing good.
Good. So go ahead and kind of give us your background, like what kind of brought you into, I should start, the name of your shop is Tandem Off-Road, and it also goes by Tandem Automotive. I think you guys do a DBA, but you can kind of tell us how that goes too. But go ahead and kind of give us some background of yourselves and like kind of leading up to starting the shop.
So I'll go ahead and go first. This is Alejandro, or Alex, or however you want to say it. My story is, it kind of started in the Formula SAE team with you and a lot of our other buddies. And from there, I went into working at Sawyer Composite, did a lot of CAD work and CNC milling, machining, programming, tool planning, and all sorts of stuff, which helped me, once I graduated UTA with my industrial engineering degree, it helped me get a job at Bell Helicopter. And then from Bell Helicopter, I got my master's in business administration. After I finished my master's in business administration, I really wanted to start a business. However, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but my brother Pablo had a business already, which was Tandem Automotive. I saw him struggling a little bit. I knew he was one of the best mechanics that I've ever known in my entire life, but he was having a hard time nailing the business side down. So instead of starting a new business, I decided to go into business with Pablo and help him with what he already had. So right now, I'll go ahead and let Pablo speak for a little bit so he can kind of give us some background on Tandem all the way up to when I joined it. And then once we get to that point where I joined Tandem, I'll start picking up and helping him out with a story. So Pablo, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started Tandem?
So at the end of high school, I was a C+ student, and I noticed that I couldn't really sit behind a desk, but I was really in tuned with mechanical things. And the first car my dad gave me was a old little Nissan Sentra SER, and it broke down everywhere, so I had to always fix it. I didn't have the money to fix it, or pay someone to fix it, so I was always kind of learning how to fix it by myself, and I just kind of decided that's the career path I wanted to take. Went to Lincoln Tech, got a job at a shop working for free just so I can get my foot in the door.
Was that in Dallas here?
It was actually, so I started working at LDS Automotive, and they were a Honda Acura specialist, but they worked on everything, so it was kind of weird. I got really, really good at fixing Honda Accords and and Dodge Caravans for some reason. But my boss at the time, he was really big into classic cars, and they took a 69 Mach 1 with a double R VIN code on it, had a 428 Super Cobra jet. And we basically restored this car to brand new. And I spent about 2 years restoring this car, taking it down to like the unibody. And then after I got all done, I realized that I've kind of hit the max of what I could be at the shop I was at. And I was getting kind of burned out. So I went to flight school to learn how to fly, and I wanted to be a pilot, and ran out of money really fast. So I went back to fixing cars out of my dad's garage. And within 2 weeks of fixing cars, my dad was like, instead of putting that money that you've made in 2 weeks fixing cars and going back to flight school, why don't you just open up a shop for a year and try it out?
Worst advice ever.
I know, right? So I was like, no, I really want to fly. And he's like, just try it out. So a buddy of mine and I, we were both really into drifting at the time. We've built a lot of 240s, and we decided to open up a drift shop for a year called Tandem Automotive. And we were like, we're just going to try this for a year and then see how it goes. And that was back in 2010.
Okay.
We later found out that most of the drift kids back then didn't have a lot of money.
I think that still applies to today, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So we started branching out from general maintenance we went from like working on Miatas, specializing in Miatas, and then I got into this weird rotary kick for a while. So we were working on a lot of rotaries, and then we went back to general maintenance. And at that time, and this was a span of like 6 years of us just bouncing around, I never took home a paycheck. I was always struggling. I was getting really burned out. And I finally decided that I was either going to close down the shop and go work at a dealership. And Alex approached me with the idea of joining in the shop.
All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and pick up over here. So at the time, Pablo was a general maintenance shop, and he had a lot, I remember he would work on a car, and then the customer would say that he couldn't pick it up, and Pablo would take out the drive shaft of the truck, so that the customer tried to come pick it up without paying for it.
It wouldn't go anywhere.
It wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Another lady came in. She was talking about how her engine was bucking and knocking and all sorts of stuff, and we asked her if she changed the oil, and she said no.
Yeah.
So we would quote, we were hungry, so we'd quote them something ridiculous for an engine swap, like putting in a new engine, just like the factory replacement on a Cavalier or something like that.
Yep. Like
$1,500, and she would balk at that number. I can't. These mechanics are just trying to rip me off.
Right.
But amongst all those terrible customers that we had one guy. His name is Keith Miller, and Keith Miller has a 1996 Tacoma 4x4 that he lifted up and he modified, and he'd go off-roading in it. But he would come to get it maintained, and not fixed, maintained.
Okay.
Every time we gave him a quote, he just said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll get it maintained because, I love my truck and I want to keep it running.
Uh-huh.
This thing had 560,000 miles, by the way. 500,000? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was, I was kind of thinking about what to do. You and I came from the racing background, and
right.
I think by then you had already been doing Evo Dynamics for a while.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about I was trying to figure out what we could specialize in. So I didn't want to compete with Forrest over at Texas Track Works because, at the time it just seemed like an insurmountable obstacle.
Right.
So we thought about doing luxury cars. So we did luxury cars for a little bit. And then it just kind of hit me let's specialize in Toyota 4x4s and Lexus 4x4s. And because, a lot of people really appreciate those cars. They like to maintain them. Mm-hmm. They know they're going to last a while, so they don't mind spending the money on them.
And they hold their value really well, too.
They hold their value really well, and I think we can make a really good business out of that. And that was kind of the genesis of it.
Okay.
That's kind of where we started.
And I remember when you were, this is before I think you had actually gotten fully involved, but I remember you saying that when Pablo was working out of that shop, you were doing work for a dealership next to you. And I remember having several discussions with you, Alejandro, about them, like, they would give you tons and tons of work, but they would only pay you like $50 an hour. And we were trying to do the math, like, are you even making money at that amount? Like, is it even worth doing at all? And I think we came to the realization that it wasn't worth doing because you were just spinning your wheels for nothing. You were working on cars, but not even able to pay yourself from it. And was that kind of like one of the catalysts to get you out of that rut of just working on crap cars, I guess, right?
Well, so I think that one of the catalysts was basically me setting up an Excel spreadsheet, and I took all the expenses.
Uh-huh.
And, like I took every monthly expense and I put it in the Excel sheet, and I, came up with a monthly, like overhead, like a burden rate.
Right.
And I told Pablo, like, hey, buddy, this is like how much you got to charge if you work this many hours in the week,
Yeah.
And that was kind of the catalyst where we kind of realized, like, hey, we are really screwing the pooch over here with the amount that we're charging. So we definitely need to charge more.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of when I got together with you. I don't remember if I had already taken the My Shop Assist.
I don't think it was quite that soon. You were still kind of doing things on the side because you were still at Bell when this was happening, right?
Yeah, I was still at Bell.
Okay, so Pablo was starting to work on off-road trucks, and you were doing all this stuff full-time. Pablo was, right, Pablo?
Yeah.
And Alejandro was still kind of like doing it evenings and weekends and on your lunch break or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of take us to the point where you guys, you were starting to focus on off-road trucks, Toyota specifically. What got you to the point where Alejandro decided to quit?
Oh, man. So it's kind of funny. My buddy, An Lee, he's a lawyer. And he specializes in commercial real estate. And one of the companies that he works with imports a lot of tires from China.
Uh-huh.
You and I being in Formula SAE, I had CAD.
Yes.
I was working with SolidWorks. And on the weekends, I'd mess around with SolidWorks and I would draw something up. And one day I decided to just for fun, draw up a wheel.
Okay.
So I drew up a wheel, and my buddy and I were talking, and he sends me... And I sent him the pictures, like, hey, check it out. I just drew a wheel. And he was like, hey, you can get that made, right? And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, you can totally get that made. I got a lot of contacts in China. We can get the wheel made, and then we'll have our own brand of wheels, And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Let's totally do it. And so he said, how about this? How about I'll invest in the company, which will basically help pay for the tooling costs and the bridge loan to get that first batch of wheels made. And I said, hey, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. And like 3 months later, there was the wheel that I had made in CAD in my hands. Like I physically had a wheel.
One or a bunch of them?
Just the prototype.
Okay.
And I had the wheel in my hands, and I said, oh my gosh, it's actually happening. After that, we waited another 3 or 4 months, and we got the whole 600 wheels in.
Okay. So you made a batch of them.
I made a batch of wheels, and I said, okay, now that the wheels are in, I can quit my job because the margin on the wheels was good enough that I think I could do it.
Okay.
And that's when I decided to quit my job.
Okay. And so, Pablo, you are still doing all the work on the trucks, essentially, right? Basically making a market for the wheels to sell is what you're doing, right?
Basically what I was doing, I was just trying to keep the daily flow going. So as Alex was taking care of the wheel business,
okay.
I was trying to keep the customers satisfied and getting all the lift kits and bumpers and light bars and winches all installed and good to go, and just trying to output some really good quality work.
He was basically doing the service side.
And you guys had employees still at this time or not?
We had one. So we had one employee that was with us for a very long time, Brandon, and he was with us, and we had. I think it was just Brandon.
Yeah, it was just Brandon.
It was just Brandon, and then we, towards the end of the 287 shop, when we had the 287, we brought Tom in last second. Or was it?
No, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, we brought in Tom at the last second.
Bringing you to three or two mechanics and you, Pablo. So 3 mechanics.
Yes.
Okay. And so you are doing. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You started the business, but you were owner operator, right? That was essentially the problem you had all this time, where you were working hard but not making any progress on anything. Essentially, right? You were treading water, right?
Yeah, I was the master mechanic, the janitor, the office manager, the owner. I was
accountant, everything. Okay.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, I mean, you guys are in the Fort Worth area, so there's tons of vehicles to work on, whether it be, just general maintenance stuff, or if you're doing off-road trucks. There's a big scene out here, right? Has that been help you guys become successful in selling these wheels and keeping the off-road growing?
The wheels, the local market hasn't really been that big of a thing. It's been more for the wheels. It hasn't been that much of a thing. The wheels has kind of been like a nationwide thing, but but the service thing, yeah, like that's really helped us out, because there's a lot of people around here who love to modify their trucks,
Yeah. And there are places to go drive them off-roading around here, correct?
Yes. Okay. There's a couple of off-road parks around the area, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's something I know nothing about.
Well, and the whole overlanding craze also happened, like right when we started that part of Tandem.
Okay, so
we started focusing.
Essentially a new type of adventure driving with your trucks has kind of spurred some of the growth you have. Then, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's basically off-roading and camping, but they call it overlanding.
Okay, so we're to the point where you guys got your first batch of wheels. You're working on trucks. You got some people working for you. What happens next? I won't say what happens, but it's great.
Oh well, so I mean, the business was growing. The wheels were finally in. Like, everything was going really good. There was a lot of excitement about the wheels. We had posted it on Facebook and forums and all that fun stuff. And this guy comes in, and he works for a magazine.
Uh-huh.
And he's part of the local Toyota club, and he said, hey, like, and he was actually one of our service customers, and I was showing him the wheels and whatnot. And he was like, hey, like, I heard about these wheels that you guys are making. I'd really like to, like, maybe get a set and review them, because I write for a Toyota magazine.
Okay.
I think it was Toyota Trucks and Trails. And I think it would be really awesome if, like, I could review them and get you guys some publicity. And I said, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. So I gave him a great deal on the wheels. And then he set off on a 3,000-mile, like, road trip around the U.S. or something like that.
Okay.
And then I get a call, and he's like, "Hey, one of my tires blew out." And I said, "I'm really sorry about that." He's like, "It's all right, no worries. Like, I got a new tire." It's like, "Okay, cool." And then, like, about a day or two later, I get another call, and he's like, "Man, I got another tire blown out. I think it's the wheels." And I was like, man, I don't know, man. I don't think it's the wheels, but, like, I just want to keep him happy and whatnot. So I said, you know what? Just ship the wheels back to me, and I'll give you a refund. He's like, yeah, because we were kind of a new brand. He was nervous about it.
Yep.
So he was just like, I don't know, man. I didn't sign up for like a beta. Beta wheels. Right. He was kind of thinking like it was like software. It's like, I didn't sign up for like beta. And I was like, no. Like I was told that they were,
ready for production or production.
Yeah,
final product, right?
Yeah, I forgot the spec, but there's like I think it's J. I forgot. There's a Japanese spec that all alloy wheels have to meet, and the SAE specs and whatnot. And
okay.
And when I was talking, my contact with the factory had told me they had met all the specs.
Okay.
So I thought it was kind of a fluke. So like, awesome. The first set of wheels that I give to a magazine review, they're bad. It's like, well, hopefully that's the only set that's bad. But then more wheels started coming in with defects and more and more. And I would contact the factory in China, and they would be like, well, I mean, it's normal. Like, some of them have defects. And I was like, no, there's no wheels with defects. Defects are not okay on wheels. Like, the only level of defects that's acceptable is 0. But, like, it was kind of my word against theirs.
Yeah. So
I did this crazy thing, and I just got on Google and I started searching like around, and I found this center in Ohio that does wheel and tire testing.
Okay.
I contacted them. I told them the issue, and they were kind of hesitant to help me out because they didn't want to be stuck between a legal issue if there was any liability.
Sure.
So I called them, and they were kind of hesitant. I was like, well, if I don't use you guys, who the heck am I supposed to use?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, okay. So I finally got them to agree to test the wheels, and there's an SAE test for axial loading, where basically you take the rating of the wheel. So let's say the rating of the wheel is 2,000 pounds.
Okay.
And you multiply that by 2.5 times, and then you cycle it, in this case, 600,000 times. And that's supposed to simulate the life of the wheel.
Okay.
So I sent them the wheels, and they told me, okay, the wheels have been received. We got the tires. We're going to go ahead and we're going to load the machine. You'll probably hear back from us in about a week.
Okay.
The next day they called me. And they said that the wheels had failed. And I said, oh, no. So there was supposed to be 3 types of tests. There was the axial loading. There was a corner loading.
Yeah.
And there was a curb test. So I sent them 6 wheels. And I said, do two for the axial, 2 for the corner loading, and 2 for the curb. And we didn't even get to the corner loading. I just said, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's test another 2 wheels on the axial loading and see if it was just a fluke. And every single wheel failed at 15,000 cycles.
Was this an expensive test?
Well, it was expensive to me. It was like $3,000.
Okay. So $3,000 to make sure your wheels are broken and to confirm your wheels are broken, right?
Yeah. So basically I paid $3,000 to basically give me like a piece of paper that confirmed that the wheels were bad, that I could take to the factory and say, hey, like, this is not going to work.
Okay. So where do you go from there? Like, you know your wheels are broken. You've got a bunch of, how many of them have you shipped and sold by then? Out of the 600.
Oh man, so I had sold about 200 wheels.
Okay, so 200 of them are gone. You had 400 of them sitting at your shop still, and then several of them testing and several of them breaking.
Yeah. So the big problem that we ran into next was just the getting the factory to replace them all. So while I was working this out with the factory, like, people were coming to me telling me their wheels were bad, and the only thing I could do was send out like wheels that were already bad to kind of hold them over. You know?
Right. I follow. Okay.
So I'd be like, well, I'm really sorry about that, sir. Let me just ship you another wheel. Shipping is going to be on us. Just run this wheel until like we can get you the full replacement. And I'm really sorry about the inconvenience. So I shipped out about 100 of these bad wheels to hold over customers.
Oh my God.
At about $25 to $50 a wheel, depending on where
shipping.
they live.
Right.
Yeah. And in the meantime, the factory thought that we were screwing them over.
Okay.
So they wanted all the wheels back.
Okay.
They agreed to give us a refund, or not a refund, but replacement wheels. And they wanted us to give them all the wheels back.
Okay.
So it was really weird, because I feel like if they had just talked to us, like, we could have gotten everything sorted out. But I never spoke to anybody. And I feel like the factory that we were using was under the impression that I was trying to get another set of wheels for free.
Okay.
So
Was this a language barrier problem working with China, or was it? Why were you not able to ever speak to somebody?
I honestly think it's just a cultural thing.
Okay.
And this is just kind of like I'm not very well versed in Chinese culture, so I don't know. Like, I'm not super familiar with it. But, like, coming from aerospace, you send emails on everything.
Right.
So, like, you email it because, like, CYA, if you mess up and it's not in an email, then, like, it's your fault. But if somebody else messes up, you can pull up an email and just say, well, I sent you an email, and it's said it,
Yeah.
So, like, if they had just, I think they weren't very experienced and they didn't know how to say it. But if they had just told me that they weren't experienced, like I could have helped them. I could have given them resources,
Yeah.
With our background in Formula SAE and with all our engineering buddies, we could have gotten tests done and we could have given them like revisions to the mold that would make this all better. But I think they were under the impression that they had to cover everything.
Uh-huh.
So I would just tell them, hey, the wheels are bad, and then it like 2 or 3 months would go by before I heard anything.
Oh wow, okay. So what ended up being the problem? I think you said it was like a fillet or something like that, right? A radius on something was not on the drawing. It was on the drawing, but not in the mold.
Yeah. So I drew the wheel up, and I basically sent them the model. Because, like working aerospace, you send somebody a model and you make it to the model.
Yeah.
And when they made it, the wheel looked exactly the way I had drawn it. But something was off and I couldn't tell what it was. So one day I just grabbed one of the wheels and I went to the bandsaw and I cut it in half.
Okay.
To see what the cross section looked like. And sure enough, like it didn't look like anything like I had drawn.
Okay.
There was basically a big and there was basically a big area of metal that shaped into like a really small area. And when you're flow casting something, it's really important that things cool kind of evenly.
Okay.
And because the transition was so sharp, the cooling was really dramatic in that one area, and it would cause porosity and kind of a brittleness.
Okay.
So that's where the defects were happening.
Okay. And so you told the manufacturer this.
Yeah. So I told the manufacturer this, but at the same time, I think they were trying to fix the problem by themselves.
Okay.
And then finally, I got them to send me a drawing of what the revised design looked like, and it was still the same thing.
To what to the bad stuff they were making, or to the good one you drew?
It was basically like the bad one they had made, but still had like they had moved some stuff around to get rid of that defect, but I was still not easy about it, and I don't think they were easy about it.
Okay.
So they didn't want to make the new set of wheels. But when I finally got them to send me a drawing of what they were going to do, that was kind of like the aha moment,
Uh-huh.
When we got the aha moment, then I was like, okay, I know what's going on. So I took their drawing, I put it in SolidWorks, and then I drew over the correct geometry and sent it back to them and said, okay, just make it like this and it'll work. I guarantee it. And I'll take liability if it doesn't. And then things started moving again.
Okay.
Finally.
Okay, so you still have 600 wheels, 200 of them shipped off to people, 100 of them reshipped off to people. They wanted you to send them all back. And so how does this work when you are trying to get them to replace them all? Did they just say, okay, we'll make you 600 new wheels, or how does this work? Yeah,
so I think, I had sent them the 300 wheels back. And they wanted the rest of them back. So as we were getting refunds, like that were kind of in the area, we could ship them out. But because we had shipped wheels nationally, it would be so expensive to ship people replacement wheels and then have them ship the wheels back and then give the wheels back to the manufacturer to send back to China, So So I basically refused to get a campaign going to ship all the wheels back. We talked the manufacturer into just taking back 300 wheels, and they would give me back 600 wheels.
Okay, gotcha. Even though they were hesitant because they thought you were trying to rip them off.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because, oh man, I'm just reliving the whole thing, and I got a sour taste in my mouth. So they were taking their sweet time getting me the wheels back because basically they had already received their money. This is just money out of their pocket, and we weren't getting anything. So my contact started, basically pushing them really hard because I had vendors buy like batches of wheels, like pallets and pallets of wheels, and they were just waiting basically a year for the wheels that they bought, and they said we need to have them by like this date, and I basically got on the phone with them and my contact, and I said, you guys, I really need something to make this delivery because it's been a year and these people need their money back, their shipment in, or we're going to lose them, or I'm going to have to return the money. And they said, okay. So strangely enough, they made 200 wheels and they shipped them over to us.
Okay.
And they sent them via air freight.
Okay. So fast.
Fast at their expense. And then like I was able to fulfill my orders to my vendors and send out a bunch of warranty wheels and sell just a couple, to keep my head above water.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, I need the rest of the wheels. And they
and you could start sending more of them back then too at that point, right?
Yeah. Like as I was replacing wheels in the area, I could send back wheels.
Okay.
But the problem was, now that they had shipped me a partial container of wheels, they didn't want to be on the line for half a container of wheels.
Okay.
Because they were going to have to, the shipping you pay is by the container, it's not by the wheel.
Okay. So they wanted you to buy another 600 of them, really, essentially, right?
Essentially, yes. But here's where it gets really weird. Like, and this all happened without my knowledge, to some extent. They got a new factory, and I don't know what happened with the old factory at all. But supposedly this factory is the same factory that makes the wheels for Ford. And I still had I was still hurting from my last experience. So I said, like, just make sure that we copy the exact geometry from this wheel to the new wheel, Yeah. So they redid the mold, they redid everything, and then we added a center cap, and I had to buy basically another whatever it took to fill the container up.
Okay.
So that's what we did.
Okay.
I had to get I basically got another loan for $45,000, and we filled up the rest of the container.
Okay, so now you've got 800 wheels, 200 of them out to, I guess, orders that hadn't been fulfilled and replacements, huh?
Yep.
And you were able to get all 600 of the old ones back and ship them all back?
No, I actually only was able to send. So my lawyer buddy and I, we came up with a way to basically send new wheels to the customer and have the customer keep the old wheels. And what we would do is we would send them a release of liability where we tell them like, hey,
okay, not shipping them back, just destroy them essentially, right?
Just destroy them. Like it's on you now.
Okay.
If you sell these wheels or give them to sell them or gift them or whatever, like they're bad.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And so now you are finally free and clear on that, and you are making and selling the wheel that is good. And what did you test this one too?
Yeah, definitely.
Lesson learned number one, right?
Yeah. So I had them ship me a prototype, and it was kind of funny because they were like, "Don't you trust us?" And I said, it would probably, basically I said I didn't trust them, but at the same time, like, do you guys want to be on the hook for another batch of wheels?
Right. Make me one and let's make sure it works.
Yeah. So they were basically going to send us a batch of wheels, and I had them hold off for like 2 months while we did this testing.
Okay.
And this testing ended up being even more expensive this time. It was like $5,000 this time around.
Was it the same just because you got further on the test or what?
I think the tire, the wheel testing facility, and this is just my hypothesis. This is not anything that they told me. I think because I'm such a small fish, and I only test, like, for example, they would get a tire company to go to them.
Yeah.
And the tire company would test like 20 different models of the tire, 20 different sizes.
Yes,
and they would test like multiples of that one model.
Sure.
So I was just a tiny little fish in this business model. So I think they kind of realized that they need to charge me a little bit more because the amount of work that I was asking to get done was so tiny.
Okay, I follow. Okay, so the wheel tested good and it cleared all your tests then, huh?
Yeah. So that was awesome. Like this time, instead of 600,000 cycles, I had them test for 1 million cycles.
Okay.
And the wheel passed.
Nice.
With flying colors. Yes. Hooray. So like big celebration. I sent the results to my contacts. I said, ship the wheels on over. We are ready for them.
Okay.
And I think we finally got them in. How long ago?
It's been about a month, almost a month now, because we got it.
Yeah, we got them right before Black Friday.
So you were able to do some Black Friday sales with them then, huh?
Yeah. So we were able to do some Black Friday sales. So that was so awesome.
Okay, so now that you've done all this, you've had to test 2 sets of wheels. You've had to, I don't even know how many you're shipping back and forth. I mean, that must have cost an enormous amount of money, huh?
Yeah, I think the defective wheels, and I'm just kind of guessing here, but between shipping costs and testing costs, I probably paid about $30,000.
Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, huh?
Well, I mean, if you got a shop and your profit margin is going to be about $30,000, then that's gone, because
right.
While all this is going on, we still have the service side of the shop going.
Okay, right. So you had something keeping the place afloat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the off-road truck stuff. Like Pablo, you are still. I mean, this is a completely different side of the business, being that it's service, not a product. You guys have constantly had to go through different employees to kind of make sure you kick out the work in a timely manner, and you run into all the problems every other shop has, where you get cars plugging up lifts and bays and you can't move them in and out, and space needs to be huge for off-road trucks, right? So you guys are dealing with all that stuff at the same time, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I always thought it was easy to get people. I would always have people ask to come work at the shop, but it made me realize how hard it is to get good people to work for you.
Right. What are you guys doing primarily right now?
So right now, it really depends. So sometimes we'll get like a 1976 like FJ40.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
Land Cruiser.
Like a Land Cruiser.
From the 70s, yeah.
And these guys are not like married to the truck, but they're very particular as to who touches it, because it's very hard to get parts for them.
Yep.
They're kind of quirky as it is. And they're a very, very tight knit group.
Okay.
So they got their forums, and they got their little Land Cruiser meets and everything. And it takes one guy to come in, and we do some work for them. And I get the truck out, and it's running 10 times better than it did when it came in. And then he goes and tells his buddies, and then in about a week and a half, we have 5 of those things in our shop.
Nice. Or maybe not nice. I don't really know.
Well, but I guess I want to go over a little bit of the money side, because I think this is in this podcast, it kind of helps to discuss like how we run the company and stuff like that.
Sure.
So in 2015, when I joined the shop, we made like $75,000 gross revenue.
Okay.
Which was basically enough to pay rent and the one employee that we had.
Okay.
And then in 2016, I think that was 2016. Then 2017, we made $180,000.
Okay, so significant growth, 100% growth.
Yeah. And then in 2018, we did 380,000 gross revenue.
So another 100%.
Yeah, and then in 2019, we closed out at, I really wanted to hit 500,000, but we closed out at 490.
Okay, fantastic. So that's not 100% growth anymore, but maintaining 100% growth is very hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So and how much of that do you break that down by wheels versus service?
Actually, probably, and this is where I got to give Pablo credit, because like the service is probably about 90% of the business.
Okay. So then you're still 450 of it is still service then. Okay. That's like similar to what I do then probably. I don't do any manufacturing, but like I do like 450 to 470. I think it was a little low this year because I didn't sell as many parts as I usually do. My service is still comparable to past years because it's still the same amount of work being done. But parts are not selling as much on Evos because they all have all the parts already.
Yeah, dude, selling the parts is so hard.
And you make no money on them, so it doesn't really matter to me anyway. So.
Well, you know how many times I get a guy that says like, "Well, why does this control arm cost so much when I can get it for like $70 in Rock Auto?" It's just like, it's brutal.
Because the one at Rock Auto breaks in two pieces when you're driving down the highway.
Yeah.
That's the problem I'm dealing with my Honda right now. My Honda's got a Rock Auto catalytic converter that lasted 11 months. And
whose fault is that, Kevin?
It's my fault. Just kidding. No, I'm going to have a warranty. It's got a 1-year warranty, supposedly. Okay, so let's take a pause here, and we'll move into more of the business side of the shop. We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. Okay, so Tandem Automotive or Tandem Off-Road. First, tell me like how it was started as Tandem Automotive, but you do go by Tandem Automotive, but it's a DBA, or yes or no? And you have Facebook and Instagram for both of these. Is that how this is working?
Yeah, so what we're doing is basically, and I think maybe I'm messing it up, or maybe I'm not. I don't know. I think it's still kind of sorting itself out. But we became Tandem Off-Road for a little bit, and then I figured, we need to separate the two businesses, or the business, into two sections, and basically the wheel section and the service and repair section need to be two separate things, because I can't advertise because one business is national and one's regional.
Okay, follow.
So I figured we separated and we do it that way.
Okay.
So Tandem Automotive is where we advertise all our service and repair stuff
locally,
yep. And Tandem Off-Road is where we advertise our wheels.
Okay. And whatever parts because you guys make a lot of other stuff too. Like you're making like sliders and bumpers and stuff like that too, right?
So we're kind of trying, but it's hard.
A lot of competition?
Not the competition. I think if we didn't have the competition, I think if we had that, we're competing against ourselves. So whenever we try to, the shop is so small that like if I undertake a big fabrication project, I really hurt the service side.
Okay, I follow.
And then like let's say I have to make a bumper. Well, there goes one lift for about a month.
Okay.
And lifts are precious.
Right.
And since that's 90% of our income, it's kind of hard to to develop things.
Okay. So you're in a holding pattern until your wheels start making you more money, or at least you undo the damage done from the first set of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how big is the facility you're in, and are you renting it or owning it?
It's 4,500 square feet.
Okay, so
and
it's pretty
we
big.
are renting.
Okay, and that was one you were thinking about buying at one point, right? Or was that a different building?
I think that was a different building.
Okay, because I remember you had talked about like somebody wanted to lease it to you for like 6 years and then sell it to you after that, or some really weird arrangement, and it was kind of goofy and.
Oh no! It was kind of funny because we came from a 2,000 square foot place.
Yeah.
Where basically we had one lift in the alignment rack.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, like if we get this place, then that'll be the last place we ever need, you know? So, because like we'll have so much space, I won't even know what to do with it. So,
was this the new shop space?
Yeah, the new shop space.
Yeah.
And it's full already, right?
Oh my God, dude, it feels so small. It's like I feel like I need 10,000 square feet.
But then you get 10,000 square feet, and then you're like, no, we need like 3 more employees to fill it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And how many people are you working with right now? How many people are there?
As our demand went up, you kind of go into that panic mode. It's like, I need more bodies. Like we have so much work, so we hired another guy, and at this point it was still service side. It was still just me and Brandon working on trucks. We brought Tom in. Tom and Brandon and I were doing okay, and then we installed the rear set of springs on a GX 470 Lexus, and it had an aftermarket bumper for the rear where you could stick your foot in it at the edge, and then you can go and access the roof of the truck.
Okay.
So Tom goes to step in this and jounce test the back of the shock. His foot slips. He nails his knee at the bumper and completely cuts it open.
Okay.
And so then I was out a mechanic for a while. And Alex, we put him in the office because he was a good guy and we didn't want to
fire him or whatever. Like, I don't know how that really works, right?
So what happened with that was like Tom had mentioned to me that he wanted to do management.
Okay.
And, with the fabrication stuff, like it's kind of crazy because that fabrication stuff is really big to ship. So it's actually kind of regional. So if you start like fabricating sliders and bumpers and stuff for your truck, like a big part of your market is going to be regional because a lot of those guys, they're willing to drive 2-3 hours
to get it installed instead of having to ship it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or just to pick it up. So that way they don't have to pay the $300, $400 of shipping.
Got it.
So I was getting calls left and right, and I was kind of putting them in the back burner because I was managing the shop, and just dropping balls left and right. And then Tom hurts his knee, and then I thought, okay, well, we'll give him a shot as manager, as a kind of like service advisor, and see how he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so then we still needed another mechanic, and so we hired another kid to come in. And he had a very nice little resume, and so we're like, okay, we'll give him a shot. And it didn't work out as well as we wanted it to. So eventually what ended up happening is we had 3 guys in the shop flagging the same amount of time as one really good mechanic.
Okay.
Like all 3 guys together would flag the same amount of time as one person.
Gotcha. So that's kind of like the situation that I was in years ago too.
Yeah, and it got to me because I consider myself a very patient person. I don't really fly really off the handle often, but I was constantly getting pulled off of work to be asked questions on jobs that someone who's been doing it for a while shouldn't need to be asking.
Okay.
And so it got to be pretty unbearable. So then what we did is we let go of one guy, and then we brought in a more experienced guy, which was Techley.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, we brought in Techley, which worked worked okay, and the hours got a little better, but yet still I was getting constantly pulled off of work.
Okay.
And ultimately we met down the line, we met another guy who was from Venezuela, and he's extremely knowledgeable on Land Cruisers and has a ton of experience, had all the toolboxes in the world. And this guy was
the fastest mechanic that we've ever seen in the history of time.
I mean, it was the craziest thing, because we'd have an 80 series Land Cruiser, and if you remember, they have a very crazy transfer case and transmission system that you have to kind of move out of the way, and it's big and it's heavy, and we had to do a rear main seal on one. And I went over to Antonio and I was like, hey, I need you to do a rear main seal on it. And he's like, oh, okay. So I go work on this time belt. I get the time belt done in about 4 hours, and he's already putting the transmission back in this 80. Like, the guy was just a monster as to getting stuff done. And it was going really well for 2 months.
We had like a really good time, because like he was fast. If I had 80 hours worth of work, I could keep him busy. He would put out 80 hours.
Okay.
You know?
Uh-huh.
But he was also expensive.
Okay.
When he came in, he said he wanted $75,000
Okay.
a year. And he didn't want a flag. He just wanted that like to be
salary.
his guarantee.
Got it.
He wanted to be salary.
Okay.
And I said, sure, yeah. I mean, like, as fast as this guy works, I'll have no problem.
Okay.
When the work was here, it was good. We had this huge backlog, and he came in and he cleared it out in 2 days.
Okay.
So that was amazing. And then, like right at the end of summer, we had 2 weeks of no work, and it brought me to my knees.
Trying to pay him with nothing coming in.
Nothing we overextended ourselves. Like, I had hired a guy for online sales, because, you know, while the whole like wheel stuff was happening,
yeah,
I was trying to sell other people's parts. Like, since we had all the accounts with all the vendors for all the work that we do, I was like, oh, you know what? I'll sell lift kits online. I'll sell lockers, re-gear kits. I'll sell this. I'll sell that, and I'll hire a guy. And he'll just sell 30, 40 grand. It sounds so stupid when I say it. He'll just sell 30, 40 grand, a month, and like, we'll be really good. We'll like make a ton of money. And that's not what happened at all. He actually sold bupkis. So
he just sat on the internet, chatting with all his buddies in Facebook or something like that.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't his fault.
We just didn't have a system in place.
We didn't have a system in place, but man, selling stuff online is hard, dude.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
There's like 20 guys. You know the common complaint. There's that guy who sells like parts from his mom's basement, and he's just in it for the transactions. Like, he doesn't care if he's selling like $5,000 lift kit or like an air filter.
Okay.
He just wants to get that $5 in for his transaction. They sell it just like dollars over wholesale just to get the sales in, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So we can sell anything at a decent price.
Yeah, and during this time, we also brought in Joey, which he was actually...
He's the other tandem guy.
He's the other tandem guy.
Original tandem guy.
When I said I started the business with a buddy, it was originally Joey that I started the business with, but we were 21 at the time. We bumped heads. We didn't know, and ultimately we parted ways. But we had time to mature over this period of time. I brought him back, and he's been the best damn employee I've had. To kind of like recap here, at this point in time where we were in the conversation, we had Antonio, we had Joey, we had Brandon, we had Techley, me, and Alex.
We had like 10 employees.
So like
10 people with at the time you're nearing 450,000 a year, but yeah, that's or probably 490 a year, right? That was this year.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
And I remember Alex would tell me, I'm going to bring this guy in, and I'm just screaming in my head like there's not enough work, or there's not enough people for there's too much people for what's going on. What it ended up happening was
those 2 weeks.
Those 2 weeks, Alex would come and yell at me. It's like, why is there not any hours? And I'm like, it's just the work is not there. Like there's not enough hours for the amount of mechanics that are present in the shop. There's nothing we can do about it at this current moment in time.
This is where I gotta be a brother and
disagree.
The hours were there, we just couldn't get them out.
Okay.
But yeah, man. So those 2 weeks brought us to our knees, and I just let go of one guy, and that was hard. But I figured out how to do it, and then I let go of another guy, and another guy, and another guy, and I pretty much let go of everybody. So now we're down to me, Pablo, and Joey.
You should have no problem running it with like that. The big problem with these big project cars like that is they just sit for a long time, right? If it has any custom parts, you gotta have room for the truck to wait for those parts to get there, right?
Exactly, and that's kind of the lesson that we learned is given the square footage that we have and the number of lifts we can have, we have about I think we need 2 lifts per tech.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only have 4 lifts. So on the service side, for it to be successful, I need another guy, and he needs to be in Pablo's skill level.
Okay.
And actually, we just interviewed a guy this morning, so I think.
Be careful, man. Be careful with hiring people. We're gonna have to. You're gonna need a consulting firm, and that'll be me. Whether or not you should be hiring people.
Well, like at this point, so the good thing is like I think we're at a good foundation now, and I've been going over the hours with Pablo and Joey, and we're actually booked about 2 months in advance.
Okay.
So I think that another guy coming in would help us out a lot, and doing the math, if we could get 60 hours out a week, which I think there is. Because we've got 1 turbo 80 that we are going to do. So somebody wants us to install a kit, a supercharged Tacoma that wants us to swap out the cams, an engine rebuild on a 40 series, an LS swap on an 80 series. Well, I mean, those are just the big projects that we got already lined up.
So how many hours a week are each of you working currently?
So right now, between Pablo and Joey are doing the service side, and Joey's been a huge help here because Joey, he just picks up whatever slack there is and he takes it. So between Pablo and Joey, and keep in mind Joey's also like ordering parts, doing quotes,
sure,
and all that stuff. Pablo and Joey are knocking out about 40 hours a week.
Okay. No. How many actual physical hours are you guys all at the shop?
40 hours.
Okay, you guys work just straight 40, like open, close, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not staying super late every night?
No. Pablo's got a kid and a wife, and he's adamant about making sure he's got family time. Okay,
so how about yourself?
I'm probably maybe like at 60 hours a week.
Okay. You said you've kind of put in place, like a foundation here. What kind of systems and tools are you using to manage the business to make sure you have the stuff in place for when you hire people, you're not going to make a mess out of it again?
It's kind of funny that you're asking that because I've been listening to that NPR podcast, How I Built This.
Yeah, I like that one.
There was one. It's good, right? It's like amazing. And the one that I listened to that was kind of like the turning point for me was the one for the OtterBoxes. Okay. And he was talking about how he ran his company, and it was basically like this fire, this like what are they, like fireman thing where you just running around putting fires, like, oh my god, the supplier's pissed off, I gotta do this. Oh no, this customer's not happy I gotta do that. Oh my God, like the parts are gonna be late. I gotta go. I'm gonna go drive to Dallas and pick it up myself, And like he talked about the issues that he was having flying back to China, coming back and stuff. And he read a book called the E-Myth, which was the entrepreneur myth.
Yep. And
have you read it?
I know what it is, but I've never read it. No.
No, it will like they basically talk about a system and like whenever you talk to a guy who's doing sales for 4-wheel parts or like a Toyota dealer or something like that, and they're selling $250,000. Like one guy sells $250,000 of parts a month. Like those guys aren't salesmen. There's a system in place for them to do that stuff. So the system that we're coming up with at the shop is basically a set of standards that we judge the work by.
Okay.
So like, you can't put in a repair for everything, every single thing that you do, but like we basically kind of have a shop document where we put down things that are important.
Okay.
So like for example, and it happens with an industry like this is like you're going to work on a truck and a customer like might the next day for whatever reason, maybe he's going to install something or maybe he's going to try to do the maintenance himself because he's bored and he wants to play with his truck or whatever. That customer is going to go back and he's going to touch your work.
Okay.
So that's kind of in our manual is like work on it like the customer's going to take your work apart after you do it.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. I kind of do it's the same thing mentally. I don't have it documented, but that's what I do mentally.
Yeah. So we have that and we're kind of getting the system in for like doing the quotes, upsells, like a truck comes in, you drive it, document all the lights that are on because there's been times when we get a truck in and we finish a repair and I me being the fireman that I am, I'll get in the truck and get in it and be like, why is the check engine light on this thing on? And the mechanic will be like, I don't know. And then I'll be like, was it on when it came in? And then they'll say, oh, I don't know.
Right.
So that's kind of the system that we have in place. We're working on it. It's not completely in yet, but it definitely is a priority. Every week, I go over the hours with Pablo and Joey. So we go over all the work that we did. We go over the hours and we talk about which jobs we did good in and which jobs we fucked up. Which jobs we messed up.
You can say the F word. It's okay.
Okay. Which jobs we fucked up. And we kind of take notes and see what we can do better next time. We have my shop assist, which has helped us a lot. And there's each tech, which is just Pablo right now, has actually a warranty task.
Okay.
And every time work comes back, we make a job with a customer's name, and the task is just warranty, and we clock into the warranty task.
Yes.
And at the end of the year, we can look at how many hours we spent fixing our mistakes.
Very fancy. Okay. Uh-huh. So it's not an individual task. You're just logging it all to one warranty task. I like that idea. I should do that.
Yeah, because that way, if we do that way, you can see how much money you lose.
Yes. Yeah. I've always tracked the hours that I do warranty work, but I don't put it under a single task. I just put it under the task that I'm doing and just zero the price out. So yeah, that's a little system that we came up with, and also one thing that I do is we have a Google spreadsheet. Yeah.
Where the hours are there, but in addition to that, I run a QuickBooks report.
Okay.
And I look at the labor income and I put it there, and I divide it by the labor hours, which is one thing that I learned from you guys.
Yep.
To see like if my shop assist and my QuickBooks hours are lining up, and for the most part, they're within like 10%. So It's actually working pretty well.
Cool.
But, you know, like I show it to the mechanics as well and the service manager. And this one sheet has the hours that we build on My Shop Assist, the hours that we build on QuickBooks, the number of credit card debt that we're running, the amount of money that's in the bank account and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that way I'm not the only one that's seeing it. Like I feel like everybody can kind of see what the boat is doing, you know, and if we're taking in water or what.
Yes.
And they can kind of get the same sense of urgency that I get.
Feel more a part of it rather than just working for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of the people on that How I Built This podcast, I think that's a pretty common thing, is letting employees feel a part of the business, not just working for the business, not a cog in the wheel. Their work has value. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, like I kind of want them to take ownership of it, literally and figuratively. Like I actually do want to. One of my goals is to get Joey to like take ownership in the shop,
mm-hmm.
like actual ownership. And whenever we have money left over, I want him to take a cut of it, and I want Pablo to get a cut of it, and I want to get a cut of it. And I want it to be, you know, kind of a thing where they own it and they become proud of it and they want to grow it.
Okay, cool. Do you have a business plan for this or no?
Not an actual business plan per se. After reading the E-Myth, you know, you kind of write down your mantra and you write down your goals and whatnot. So based on experience, you know, we should be able to definitely do, with 2 mechanics, we should probably be around the $800,000 mark for the service side.
Okay.
We should be clocking in about 60 hours a week. We should be focusing on Toyota 4x4s only. Like we're stuck in this lease for another 3 years. So we're just going to be a 2 mechanic shop.
Okay.
And we're going to, you know, just put out extremely high quality work, and we're going to cater to a very specific clientele.
Okay. And what's your guys' like 1-year plan currently for the business? I mean, you just kind of mentioned what your 3-year plan is, but do you have like, I mean, are you going to keep selling wheels, making more wheels, or do you want to do more with the fab stuff, or what's the plan for the 1 year? And then I guess also follow that up with a 5-year plan.
Well, I know what my 1-year plan is, and that is
vacation.
Absolutely. My wife has been begging me for some vacation time. And no, my 1-year plan is to get at least the service side 100% functional to where if I'm sick or if I have an issue or something, it doesn't 100% kill the service side.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of service, like the 1-year plan is to hire another tech, a really good tech, keep on focusing on what's made us successful, which is high quality work, difficult work, and to, you know, aim for about $700,000 to $800,000 a year. And on the product side, like I do want to hopefully release. I want to get another wheel model out.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get that going.
Yeah, make one for my Tundra and I'll buy them, man.
That's actually the next one that I want to make.
Sweet. My 22 chromes are they 20s or 22? 20s? I guess they're 20s, huh?
I don't know what you got.
They're the factory chrome ones that are, they were cool when the car was new, but they're not cool anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how they lose their luster.
Yeah. But yeah, for anybody who's not seen the wheel, they are pretty cool. I do like them. They're kind of the bronze color, right? The brownish metal color, right?
Yeah. So we got gunmetal, bronze, black, and the thing that made our wheels really different was we put, you know, like the market was flooded with these fake beadlock rims,
yes,
with fake screws and whatnot, and I hated that. but like they did serve a purpose, and that was kind of like when you're going off road, the rocks knock your valve stems off, and you lose all your air.
Okay.
So I put these two big metal lugs next to the valve stem, and that protects the valve stem, but then the wheel's unbalanced. So basically, these big old lugs, I had them go all the way around the wheel, and they give the wheel an incredibly unique look that I don't think anybody else is doing right now.
Okay. Cool.
So that's kind of how we stand out in the market.
And when you say you're making these wheels, you only have to make one size, right? You're not making like an 8.5 and a 9.5 and a 10.5. You're just doing one size wheel for a specific truck.
So yeah, and the cool thing about all the Toyota trucks, or most of them, is they've had the same lug pattern and hub size for like the last 40, 50 years, you know?
Okay.
So like your 1972 Land Cruiser has a 6 bolt by 5.5 inch diameter lug pattern with a 107 millimeter hub.
Okay.
You know, and the offset is about -10, and the width is 8.5 inches, and the wheel size is 17 inches, and that's the most popular wheel size right now. So all the good tires are on the 17 inch, and that's kind of been the cool thing about it, is we can fit so many vehicles with one wheel. Although people do want like more offset or different lug patterns for the Tundras and the 100 series and 200 series, but yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, so what is something you guys struggle with business, like each individually, that you guys have to deal with, and how are you dealing with it?
So one thing, I think the thing that we struggle with is time. And I think like owning your own business kind of makes you I don't want to say lazy, but I think sometimes I think this is kind of like Pablo's and I thing, not Joey. Joey's been like super awesome, but because we've been operating under so little for so long, we have a hard time motivating ourselves to do more. But that's definitely something that we struggle with is like pushing out the hours, and that's kind of why we have that Monday morning meeting where I show them the spreadsheet,
sure,
with all the hours and stuff. But yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of a motivation thing here at this point, because I get the same problem as like I don't really necessarily want to keep doing this forever. So it's like, do I pivot? What do I do? I just keep slogging away at it until I get to a point where I'm happy, and then like there's got to be an end to it, or a different path, or something that I got to be looking forward to. And sometimes you just get stuck in a rut and don't look past what you're doing right now, so you kind of lose vision, right?
Yeah, but actually for us right now, the cool thing about it is I think we're finally at a good spot where all the mistakes that I made didn't kill me.
Okay.
all the extra people that I hired a long time ago, and this is mainly my mistake. It's not Pablo's mistake. All the other people that I hired that like almost brought the company down to its knees, like we've let them go, not because they were bad people, but because we just couldn't support
mismanagement. Yep.
Mismanagement. And my wheels are in. So the plan right now is to let Pablo, Joey, and the new tech that we're trying to hire take over the service side, and for me to focus on selling the wheels.
Okay.
So I'm pretty excited about that. My income is not going to come from the shop, or if it is, I'm just going to get a very minuscule amount, not enough to live off of. My income is going to come from the wheel sales.
Okay. With the wheels thing, is it? Do you think you've kind of worked through all the issues with it? It's kind of like clear sailing from here. Is that the hope?
Well,
I don't know how many more problems you can possibly have with a wheel, right?
Yeah, the problem that I have now is I have to sell it.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny because you never notice it until you really get down into the weeds. But I followed a guy on Instagram who designs wheels. You just kind of find these people once you get into the business, and they were talking about all the wheel manufacturers that showed up to SEMA. And you really don't think about it, but holy moly, like once you get into it, there's so many dudes just trying to sell wheels, you know?
Uh-huh.
So many companies, so many businesses that just focus on selling wheels. And like when you realize what's going on, how many of the same guys there are doing the same thing in the same little market, it's like overwhelming. So the big problem right now is I have to learn how to market. I have to learn when to have sales. I have to learn how to build my brand. I have to learn how to, like, no engineering stuff is left, you know?
right.
Like I have a Shopify, and it's like, well, I'm like, and then I get a high risk order. It's like, what do? Do I send them the part, or do I just refund them their like $900 that I really need right now?
Right.
But like I guess the hard part now is just learning everything else that, like, when you make the wheels, you think the sexy part of it's like designing the wheel and then getting the thing and then like getting it on a truck and then taking a picture and you're like, my job is done. But
just getting started.
But it's just getting started, you know, like making 3 Instagram posts a day, and then like the vendor that bought all my wheels after the wheels got here, they haven't sold a single one.
Okay.
So it's like, oh my God, these people spent like, you know, all this money on our wheels and they're not selling anything. So now I'm like making Instagram ads for them, and I'm like pushing their products, you know, and like just figuring out like what's a good wholesale price to sell to my vendors, you know.
So do you have like, I mean, a wheel, when you're building off-road wheels, obviously people are using them for off-roading. Do you have like a photographer go take pictures of your wheels on people's trucks off-roading?
You know, I actually, that's a cool thing about Joey that we have. Right, he's a good photographer, but it's hard to get like a time to go out and take pictures. So usually what I do is I get on Instagram, and when people start commenting, and I see that they send us a picture of their truck with our wheel, like I kind of just repost that. And then I ask our customers to send us more pictures and try to get them involved in it, you know?
Sure.
And I downloaded like the Adobe Creative Suite, and every single picture that we post on our Instagram, I put our logo on, so that way when we post it on social media, people know the brand.
Okay. And it makes it slightly harder to steal your pictures.
Oh, I don't care if they get stolen.
Okay.
But like, what I do care is like that people don't know. One of the comments that I get a lot is, "Oh man, I've been looking for that wheel. I didn't know who made it." You know, so that's kind of what I'm going through right now, is just like putting the logo on everything and making sure people know where it comes from.
Cool. Okay, well, we're at an hour and a half here, so let's kind of close this thing out. But one thing I've wanted to do this year, and we have talked about this in the past, and we're going to do it this year. Me and you and Pablo, and I'm sure there's other people in the DFW area, we are going to do a mastermind group. We are going to meet in person for dinner like once a quarter or something, and we are going to share our problems and our questions, and we are going to make our businesses better.
Yes.
Okay, we're doing this.
That sounds amazing.
Should we do one like here in January to get the year started?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
Okay, so for people who are listening to this, if you're in the Dallas area and you want to be involved, I mean, we got to keep it kind of small, like maybe like just a dozen people at most. And then, I think there's a lot of value in that, because I hear you talking and I'm like, oh, I got so many cool ideas for you. And just bouncing those off of you, you probably, for most of them, will be like, yeah, we already thought of that. We already tried that, but, there may be that one thing that somebody has an idea for you that you're like, oh, you know what? That would be great. So, okay, we're doing this.
And you know what I like to do personally is just show other business owners that I'm struggling too.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it's not perfect. It's not like happy. It's not like and like I have a friend of mine who started his own thing, and he's like, well, I'm not as big as you yet. And like it's kind of funny how he talks when he talks to me like I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Like I know what I'm doing, but I have no idea what I'm doing,
Right.
And I don't need help. I don't want anybody's sympathy, but I just wanted to let people know, like, hey, it's a struggle.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not, I don't go over and like I'm living this perfect life. Like, man, it's rough sometimes.
It's not all rainbows and butterflies.
It is
Exactly.
not. Definitely not. Okay, guys. Well, I want to thank you for your time for doing this and starting off the year with our first D-Full podcast. So thank you both for sharing your story.
No problem.
Hey, no
Thank you for
problem,
having
Kevin.
us.
All right, and how can we get a hold of you guys if people are interested in having their trucks worked on you or seeing your wheels?
You can go to our service side, which would be www.tandemautomotive.com or tandemauto.com. And the wheels are on tandem-offroad.com.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. See you later, Kevin.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe,